Hey guys, welcome to week 23 of Victorian English Language Tutoring's online Metalanguage course. Today we're covering syntax. So before we do this lecture, if you have not already, please go and have a look at the YouTube video about Mr. Morton. If you've watched it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, have a look at the modules before in resources and watch that video first. Let's get into functions in clause structure. So our good friend Kirsten Fox says the structure of a clause or sentence must at a minimum contain a subject and a verb. So a subject is the noun that takes the action in the sentence. For example, Mr. Morton opened the door. Mr. Morton is our subject because he is the one that is taking the action. He's the thing doing the action. The object is the noun that does not take the action. Another way of thinking of object is the thing that's having the action being done to it. So in this sentence, the door is the thing that's having the action being done to it. The predicate is the verb and its related parts. So the verb is opened. The door, which is the object, is a part of the predicate because it's the related parts. So this is kind of a little tree that explains that. So Mr. Morton, subject, opened, verb, the door, object, and the verb and the object combined makes the predicate. So that's our functions in clause structure. We need to move on to phrases. A phrase is multiple words with a grammatical relationship. They do not contain a subject and a predicate. They either have one or none. So either a subject or a predicate, or neither. Phrases contain a main lexeme and related words, and we define phrases based on their word class. For example, a noun phrase, the jumping fish, looked ridiculous. Verb phrase, he was scribbling on the paper. So scribbling is our verb. Was is the attached part, so the related words to that main lexeme. Prepositional phrase, I have dance class in the afternoon. So in the afternoon is giving out information about when it's going to happen, so it's prepositional and the kind of has the related words as well as the main preposition. Adjective phrase, the large brown spotted dog ran. Adverb phrase, the swimmer swam slowly. So these are our phrases, multiple words with a grammatical relationship, but they don't contain a subject and a predicate. It's one or none. Clauses consist of a subject and a verb. We have two types of clauses. Independent and dependent. Independent clauses can stand alone. So I bought a hot dog. You can walk up to someone and use an independent clause. It makes sense. Dependent clauses cannot stand alone. They have to be attached to an independent clause to make sense. So because I was hungry doesn't make sense if you just walk up to someone and say, because I was hungry. Right? It has to be attached to something else. So I bought a hot dog because I was hungry makes sense, okay? Because we're attached that dependent to the independent clause. So these are our two types of clauses. Sometimes independent clauses are referred to as main clauses. Sometimes dependent clauses are referred to as subordinate clauses. So they're kind of two names for both. I think that independent and dependent is easier to remember. Independent, if you're an independent person, you can kind of be self-sufficient. A dependent, like a child, dependent on their parents, they need to be attached to something else. Coordination and subordination are methods used to combine words, phrases, and clauses into sentences. Coordination is the use of coordinating conjunctions to create sentences. So we've talked about our fanboys conjunctions, for and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. Lillian is a big fan of jazz and Abby is too. So and is our fanboys coordinating conjunction, and we're using coordination to combine two ideas. The first idea is that Lillian is a big fan of jazz, and the second idea is that Abby is also a big fan of jazz. Subordination is the use of subordinating conjunctions to create sentences. So all other conjunctions, because, however, despite, although, nevertheless, those kinds of connecting words. Meg is wearing purple, however, Lucy is wearing blue. Again, we're combining these two different ideas through contrasting them with subordination. Next, we have complements and adverbials. Complements are a phrase or clause that provides extra information about a subject or object. So the water is quite warm is a complement to the water. Quite warm is our complement. It's giving us extra information about the water. Adverbials are elements that provide extra info about time, place, or manner. So how, when, where, which one, how often. Those are the questions that adverbials answer. I'm going to school in the morning. And you might notice that in the morning is a prepositional phrase, which we referenced earlier. So prepositional phrases are phrases that give extra information about these questions. So often it's like when or where or how. Prepositional phrases position things in place and time. Just because it's a prepositional phrase doesn't mean it's not an adverbial. So we have two different things going on here. It's an adverbial and a prepositional phrase. You can use both of these terms to describe them. You might say the adverbial prepositional phrase in the morning and then go on with your analysis. I'm getting lunch with my friends at Chadstone. Jessica completed her homework reluctantly. Okay, they're all information about how, when, where, which one, or how often. So they're adverbials. Sentences we've covered. So go back to previous syntax weeks for sentence structure and sentence type if you need to revise that. But simply put, sentences contain one independent clause at a minimum. They can contain more, but they have to have at least one at a minimum. So for sentence structure, we have fragments, simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. And for types, we have declarative, exclamative, interrogative, and imperative. So please go back and revise that if you need to. Voice. Active voice is what is used most often. So this is where the agent is the subject of the sentence. This is our SVO structure. So we have subject, verb, object. SVO. Hudson, subject, kicked, verb, the ball, object. Active voice is what's most common. So when people are just generally speaking, they will usually use active voice. Passive voice is when we switch around the subject and the object. So it goes object, verb, subject. So OVS structure. The ball was kicked by Hudson. It is passive voice. Agentless passives is when we just take out the agent or we take out the subject. So we might do this because the agent's unknown, it could be irrelevant, or sometimes the language user doesn't want you to know the agent. So the ball was kicked. We don't know who kicked it. We don't know if Hudson kicked it. We don't know if Jacob kicked it. We don't know who kicked the ball. Politicians do this really often. They will say the law was passed or the bill was passed because they don't want you to know who did it in case it's an unpopular opinion. This is an agentless passive. It's time for our revision quiz. We're going to answer the questions. What is the difference between a phrase and a clause? Give an example of an agentless passive, and what is the most common way to structure a sentence? Pause now and come back when you're ready for the answers. Okay, question 1. A phrase contains a main lexeme and related words. A clause contains a subject and a verb. Clauses can be independent or dependent. An example of an agentless passive, the train station was built. We don't know who built it, there's no subject or agent. What is the most common way to structure a sentence? Subject, verb, object, SVO. However, not all sentences have objects. Thanks for tuning in this week. Good luck for your study, and I look forward to seeing you next week. As always, please reach out to me if you need anything, if you're keen for tutoring, school presentations. I can come into your school and do kind of revision with you all, or anything else you think I might be able to help with. Please send me an email and I'd be more than happy to chat with you. Have a great rest of your week, guys. Bye.